Let us begin with Psalms number 95. O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving, and make a joyful noise unto him with psalms. For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods. In his hands are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart, as in the provocation, and in the days of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest. Good afternoon, brethren. Welcome guests. Today, again, we are here to share with you the wisdom of the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We thank you, my Father, for sharing your mercy with us and for giving us the spirit of truth so that we could be separated from the rest of the world. We thank our elder Shadrach for sharing this wisdom with us, for teaching us concerning his laws, statutes, and judgments, and especially the name that we should call him. Today we are going to take a very careful look of the situation at hand and try to prescribe a solution, even a spiritual solution, because we are spiritual people. A solution for the problems facing the children of slavery. Today I get to play the role of a physician. I get to, and any good physician, as you know, will examine the patient very carefully, take a look at the past. They would ask, what did you eat? Or what have you done previously? That way they could diagnose the illness. That's what I will attempt to do. And hopefully, once I've diagnosed the problem, I could write a prescription and pass it on to my superior physician, which Elder Randall, and he could sign off on that, so that the children of slavery will find the spiritual solution to the spiritual problem that we face. This is the task at hand. All that we ask is that once the prescription is written, that it is followed accordingly. This is something that we have started with our elder some 40 years ago almost. This message is always the same. The day may be different, but the process is the same. And those of you who have viewed our videos would understand exactly where we're coming from. We're coming from a biblical perspective, a spiritual, highly spiritual perspective. We understand that some of the material may not always be fully comprehended, but we will work on this today. We will look at the expulsion of our Israelite forefathers from ancient Jerusalem and the enslavement and the affliction that followed even to the new Egypt, which is the United States. We know that living in captivity and in slavery is painful. It's even shameful. But the greatest affliction of all is ignorance of self. Yet the awareness thereof is the beginning of our healing, the beginning of our freedom. However, freedom is not by might, nor by power, but by my Holy Spirit, saith the Lord of hosts, as told by the prophet Zacharias, chapter 4, verse 6. We have to understand that in order to win, we cannot play by the same standards as our opponent. Most of you, I'm sure, are good basketball players. Some of you are good at football. I'm good at neither. But that's okay. In order to win, you have to rise beyond the standards of the opponent. You cannot play the same game as your opponent and expect to win. There's a 50-50 chance that you would lose. But if you go 70, 80, 90%, you're guaranteed almost victory. So let us take a brief analysis then, a brief review of where the children of slavery came from and where they are today in order to make the proper prescription for the sickness that we see today being manifested in so many different ways. Let's look at ancient Egypt. Let us go to Genesis, and we're just going to read from verse 41, from 38 to 41. It says here again, Genesis 41, 38, and Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such as one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? So right away we know that our forefathers spent some time in Egypt, and thanks to Joseph, our brother, they were able to make Egypt great and powerful. Our Israelite forefathers wielded great power in Egypt, and that power did not come from the worship of the sun god, the Egyptian sun god. That power came from the worship of the Almighty Spirit of all spirits, even the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, creator of heaven and earth. It is only natural then that the Egyptians would want to have that power themselves. But what I'm reading here in Genesis 41 gives us an indication that Pharaoh did have to succumb, if you will, to Joseph. Again, he says in verse 38, can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? Keep in mind that Egypt was the most powerful nation, both physically and spiritually. And Pharaoh said in verse 9 and 39, Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath shown thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. This is powerful coming from an Egyptian king. Thou shalt be over me. This is what he's saying now, verse 40. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. Which is obvious. Then you see the situation in ancient Egypt. It's the Pharaoh, king, and then it's Joseph, president. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. Here it is then, in the ancient history of the children of slavery, our people ruling over all of Egypt. And only Pharaoh was higher. And even Pharaoh had to follow the instructions of Joseph. When we come to the new Egypt, we are going to see if we too have empowered them. And what does it take for us to remove that situation? Again, it is worth repeating that the power of ancient Egypt initially came from their worship of their God, until they saw what Joseph could do, worshiping our God. Took it to an extraordinary high level, a level that Pharaoh had never seen before. And of course, as most human beings, he would covet that power. Let's go to Exodus chapter 1 to see what happened here. It means that there is going to be a challenge. And where there's a challenge, there's a winner and there is a loser. We shall see what happened. Let's go to verse 8. It says, now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph, didn't recognize him. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. It's not more numerically, but spiritually speaking, they had the advantage. And he said in verse 10, come on now, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when they falleth out any war, they join also with our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore did he set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. Something had to give. The more they tried to tear you down, the greater you became. Or the greater they found out, the more they found out they could not really deal with you. They couldn't separate themselves from you because they wanted your service. Verse 13, and the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All this service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. What I'm trying to say is that what we're facing now in this Egypt is nothing new. And this is where the fight begins. The Egyptian against the Israelite. Yes, they were all black, so the battle had to be spiritual. This is not a matter of color of skin. All it takes is a shrewd politician like Pharaoh to sway public opinion. And once that has been done, then they could impose some form of discrimination. And before you know it, we have affliction even unto death. All our male children became an endangered species. As we will go to verse 22, for example, to confirm. It says here, and Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Suddenly, the male children of the Israelites, children of Jacob, today the children of slavery, became an endangered species. Pharaoh's doing. Because Pharaoh found it impossible to compete on a spiritual level. Everything that he did to keep these people down, they still rose and still accomplished the given task. This is important for us to understand because remember, I'm trying to diagnose the problem of today. I have to see what you ate last night. Where did you go? Did you have a chain that has a big cross on it? Did you go to midnight mass and came home and have a pork sandwich? All of these are things that will make you sick spiritually if you're not supposed to be on that side of the fence. They might seem pretty harmless while you're engaging in them. But in order for us, as the doctors of the royal law, to understand the situation today, we have to know where you are coming from. What is the diagnosis of the problem? As you can see, the problem is spiritual. It is not physical. Therefore, the solution will also have to be spiritual. Pharaoh decided to throw all the male children of Israel into the river, into the water, so that they could drown and die. But this was Pharaoh's biggest mistake, because it was out of the water that we gained direct access to Pharaoh's house. Of course, in order to protect our brother Moses, when he was a babe, we put him in the basket and sent him down the river. And it was only Pharaoh's daughter, you know the story. They came down to bathe in the river, and she fell in love with this beautiful baby and took him into Pharaoh's house. Out of the water into Pharaoh's house. Moses was in line for the throne of Egypt. Then we also know that there was a battle at the Red Sea about the year 1446 BCE, and Pharaoh, Thutmose III, died. He drowned in the water. They lost the battle, and Egypt, ancient Egypt, was destroyed forever. So we've destroyed the land. But just as it was in the days of old, when the God of Israel flooded the entire earth, killed all the breathing creatures, except for 8, Noah and his family. But the spirits lived on. Those spirits lived on, and their spirits are being used even today. And in the time of ancient Egypt, the mummy lived on. I'm sure most of you have watched the movie, The Mummy Returns. I think that's the name of it, I'm not sure. And if I remember correctly in that movie, the mummy that became alive again, he started to take from the people their body parts to make his body perfect. Again, try to understand the analogy here. The spirit is alive, but it needs a body. And you're taking from whomever you can get. And then when it came upon this one guy, he pulled out all the different symbols of the different philosophies. And every one, the mummy said no, until he showed the double triangle. And then he says, yes, you can be my slave. Again, in that movie, there are volumes spoken, but very few people have ears to hear and even eyes to see. In that movie, you see the double triangle making a difference amongst all the different philosophical emblems. The mummy, the spirit of Pharaoh, recognized it. Most people today, even people that look like me, will frown upon it. I understand. Now we have other people who don't understand. They put it in the cemetery. Well, they do a lot worse than that too. But we are not here to follow. We are here to lead. And that makes the difference. We can't tell you what to do. We can't tell other people outside what they should do. But we know the given wisdom of our Father that was taught to us by our elder, how we can make a difference. And trust me, we're not going to give these pearls to swine. So now that the mummy lives on, and I hate when they use the term mummy like that, because I always admire young men to call their moms mommy. So, okay, if you have a different accent, it could be, misconstrued. Mommy and mummy, or, but therein lies the problem. You have to be careful how you say these things and go beyond the pronunciation of the words. Let your action speak. How else then could a people so mighty have fallen? How could a royal priesthood of Israel, built on a foundation of truth and peace, be transformed into cotton-picking slaves? How could the sons of kings who defeated the mighty Egyptians without using an arrow or a bow, defeated Egypt, didn't even shoot a bow and arrow, and they all fell? How could they be enslaved by the wild beast of the wilderness? How is that possible? Except we understand the concept of the mummy, the concept of the spirit. How was that spirit taken from the old Egypt and brought to the new Egypt? How was it applied? Let's take a look at that. But before we go, let us go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. We're not going to read the whole book because there's so much wisdom here. But it says from verse 1, and it shall come to pass that if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all of his commandments which I command you this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations on the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. And Moses go into specific detail, blessing after blessing after blessing. The fact that we have become slaves again, even to the Egyptians, tell us that we did not hearken unto the voice of Moses. And something has to be done if we want to restore that privilege again. So now that we know that we have the blessings available to us, let us see how we can retain or return to that God and take advantage of that opportunity. But before we get there, let us examine the new Egypt. Let us see what transpired, how they become, what they are today. Biblical history confirms that the children of Jacob were sold by Mohammedans to Christians. This occurred during the West African sojourn, and the transaction was financed in part by the Gentile Khazars. And we could prove this, and we will. But look at what we are seeing here. We have Mohammedans, Christianity, and the Khazars of Judaism. Three different spiritual entities functioning as one. How is that possible? Now, a lot of people don't understand, but the question that I should ask, are you associated or affiliated with any of these spiritual entities? If you are, again, I shall repeat, the Mohammedans sold the Israelites to the Christians, and that in part financed by Judaism. Let us go to the book of Genesis, chapter 39, and produce the evidence to substantiate the statement. Genesis 39, verse 1. Just going to read that one verse. It says, "And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him off the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither." Now you can read the rest. Ishmael is the father of the Mohammedans. He is the one that sold. Now, they weren't any different from us. We sold our own to the Christians, but we did it under an Islamic umbrella. Nevertheless, we did it. That spiritual entity that we adopted moved us to do the evil thing that we did. And Christianity embraced us, and then we were sold further. Let's go to Psalms 83 to make the point again, just in case you don't understand or you didn't understand what I said there. It says in verse, let's read from 4 to 8, they have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederates against thee." And here is the list. The tabernacle of Edom. Edom, again, ended up with the Khazars that established Judaism within Christianity. And they have the Ishmaelites. There they are again. Moab, the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also was joined with them. Again, all of them are parts and pieces of the composition of Christianity. If you ever did the analysis and the investigation of Christianity, they took from everybody to get where they wanted to go. So now we have how this tragedy, if you will, occurred. But that's not all. Biblical history also confirms that the captivity and enslavement of the children of Jacob commenced in the New Egypt at Virginia, shortly after the authorized English translation of our Holy Scriptures. And that the translation was made in 1611, and they started the slavery in 1619. Again, there is a big spiritual component right here. The covenant had to be in place. Don't matter if you came with shackles or as a free man as a king. The covenant, as soon as you got off the ship, covenant is enforced, which means you're still under the same God. You still have to conduct yourself with the same precepts and principles. These are things that we have to understand. If you're not doing that, you're going to have a problem. Let us go to our third segment then. Let us understand how the New Egypt gained their power. Let us look at what I like to call Masonic Christianity, and that includes Judaism and Islam. The worship of the sun god, that's the first, and they do that either Sunday or Saturday or whenever they want to. It doesn't really matter. At least for Christianity, that's when they do it, on a Sunday. The rebuilding of the pyramid, the rebuilding of the Sphinx, the rebuilding of the obelisk, and look at the steeples and the places of worship for Christianity, and you will see that obelisk as well. Not to mention, of course, they adopted the Egyptian cross. I forgot what they call it now. Anyway, it'll come to me later. The Ankh, that's right. And then, here's something that I had to discover, and I was just so devastated. The cornerstones of the majority of Christian shrines where they worship every Sunday are imprinted with the Masonic Egyptian emblem. You have what is it called? The pyramid on the square. That is what is on the shrines. And how is it possible that they're talking about Jesus, but yet they're speaking about an Egyptian god? I don't get it. I was never a Christian, thank God, so I don't know. But this is what is happening. With this power, then, as you can see, they're drawing from all the different sources. With this power from the spirit of Egypt, the old Egypt, that was transferred to America under the Masonic Christian embodiment, the enslavement of the children of Jacob began in 1619. Let me tell you again, please investigate these things for yourself. Go out where you are, anywhere in the United States. I'm not sure about Canada. Look at the cornerstone of the shrines. You will see the Masonic emblem at least 90% of the time. Why then, I had to ask myself, is the pyramid located on the southern Mississippi River, as it was in the Nile of the old Egypt? Why is it there? Why is there a pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee, next to the river, as it was? And there's even, as it was in the old Egypt, and there's even a statue of Pharaoh at the front. Go to Memphis, Tennessee, and see it for yourself. Just as it was in Memphis, Egypt. Why do they name their cities unless they have the spirit of that old country? Why is there a pyramid and Sphinx and an obelisk in Las Vegas, Nevada? If I had the time, I could give so many examples that the new Egypt adopted the spirit of the old Egypt. Also, note that the Mississippi divides practically in half the United States. Well, it's not quite in half, but the Mississippi running from north and south divides the country, just as the Nile divided the old Egypt running from north to south, from Nubia all the way down to the Mediterranean Sea. And as it was in the old Egypt, you had 30% of the land to the east of the Nile and 70% to the west of the Nile. The same is true with the Mississippi River. And again, take a look for yourself. Also, in the old Egypt, there was a desert to the west of the Nile. In the new Egypt, there's a desert to the west of the Mississippi River. I'm not trying to impress you with my knowledge. All I'm asking you to look with spiritual eyes and ask yourself, are these things happening? Did they happen by a coincidence? Or was it strategically planned this way? And again, I'm not trying to be nerd, or what do you call these things? But haven't you noticed, or maybe it's just me, haven't you noticed that Oscar, the image of Oscar, looks so much like Osiris, who is Nimrod? I rest my case. All of these things are there for those of us who have eyes to see. But they're not just there for show. They have a strategic, spiritual role to play. This is what we have to understand. Now that the spiritual system of the New Egypt has been revealed, we can clearly see the hand of the serpent seed at work. Every Christian pastor is an initiate of the Egyptian spiritual system, or has been taught by someone who was initiated. I've seen this with myself, with my own eyes, many of the black pastors being taught by their European counterparts. Every Mason, whether in Christianity, in Judaism, or in Islam, must swear an oath to Nimrod. Hence, the Masonic emblem, as I said before, with a compass traveling the circle, is engraved on the cornerstones of most Christian places of worship. Then you have the black cube of Saturn, which forms the centerpiece of Islam. And then you have the Khazars, which are of Judaism, attaching that cube to their forehead, as a method of worship. And they also celebrate the Saturnalia, if I pronounce that correctly, Saturnalia, which is the birthday of Nimrod on December 25th, or around that time. Of course, they call it by a different name. You can look it up and see for yourself. All I'm saying is these elements combine to form the spiritual strength of the New Egypt. They are worshiping their God. You must not follow if you are a child of slavery. If you follow, you compromise your own integrity. You cannot be healed if you're doing the same thing as your enemy. Then you should not complain if your enemy missteps or does stuff that is not appropriate in your eyes. Some of these Christian Masonic symbols are proudly displayed, and here it becomes a challenge for a lot of you, proudly displayed at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. We have a huge erect phallus at the entrance of the building. There's also a ball tower, almost like in the shape of a pyramid, rising up to the sun. And it rises up from a dirty pool, or a pool of dirty water. And there's also another guy there that a lot of the children of slavery admire. I think his name was Martin Luther. I'm not sure who he was. But all I'm suggesting is that Morehouse College is one of the leading institutions of learning for the children of slavery. But yet, all the parameters and the content in the environment speaks to an ancient Egyptian and Babylonian philosophical foundation. How can you learn this knowledge and not repeat it to your detriment? These are the standards that you would have to amend if you want to come out of Egypt. You cannot be a part of the problem and still inquire about the solution. Remember, we cannot play by the same standards as our opponent and expect to win. We have to separate ourselves. This brings us now then to our fourth element, the Negro spirituals. Now, I know that everybody, all the children of slavery, know of some Negro spiritual or another. But why is this important to us? The Negro spirituals reveal the identity and the culture of the children of slavery. And this was prior to the instructions of Christianity. And these Negro spirituals were done in such a very intricate manner that they were able to lead us, those of us who found the path, to the secret pathway to freedom. And they weren't like 10 or 12. There were over 6,000 of them. They sang about Moses and the Exodus from ancient Egypt, Pharaoh's drowning in the Red Sea, Joshua and the walls of Jericho, the tumbling of the walls, King David playing on his harp, Ezekiel's vision of the wheel, Daniel in the lion's den, Jacob's ladder, the crossing of the river Jordan, the ship of Zion, etc., etc. These are high spiritual components of the Israelite culture. No Christian could teach these things. Why are the slaves singing this stuff? There were many stories are told that they could not read and write. They were ignorant and backward. Yet they sung from such a high spiritual level that even their own descendants could not understand. Furthermore, those that enslaved them. The Europeans first became aware of the Negro spirituals during the American Civil War from 1861 to 1865. And that was some 200 years after their origin. And then about 1870, Christianity started to adopt some of these sounds. Of course, they put Jesus in everything. But I am not knocking any of that. I'm not here to criticize anyone. I'm just explaining historical facts, just allowing you to see how the power was maintained. Now that it doesn't help also that we laid the platform for the political and economic and spiritual, and not spiritual, well, spiritual too, but economic and military power of the United States. And we did that with one hand tied behind our backs. Can you imagine what we could do with both hands stretched forth to the heavens? We made America great. And we got nothing in return. But they were not the first. We made the old Egypt great also. And you can go back, Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. He praised Daniel and the God of Israel for their effort. Even Queen Esther, what she did in Persia to Ahasuerus. It's not uncommon because we serve the greatest God and we have what it takes to do what is right in His sight when the time calls for it. That leads us to our fourth segment, the secret path to our Israelite nation. We've got, as I said earlier, the Negro spirituals. Let me tell you, when they sang those songs, even in the face of adversity, they touched the ears of our Father. And He made a way. Even the people that did not look like us helped us to escape. But where did they go? They took the Underground Railroad to Canada. And that's where we are today. Canada, as they would say, to Canaan's land, when they sang the songs secretly. Massa was so happy they were singing, he didn't bother with them. As long as they're not fighting him, he's cool with that. But they used their wisdom while glorifying the God of Israel to communicate with each other through music and to give bits and pieces of the mystery that would lead to their freedom. Yes, it's a long road from Georgia all the way to Toronto. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And you can't be racist. You can't be hating the white man because he's the one that's making it possible for you to travel all the way to Canada. This is where we come to the Israelite nation. This would be then our prescription, our spiritual solution for the problem facing the children of slavery. Come out of Egypt, return to your God, and do it through the ones that he has put in place to teach from the Bible. We are the only ones authorized to teach. We know what's right. We've had almost 40 years experience. We've dealt with just about every possible solution or is interesting issues that we have a solution for. Here is where the precepts of truth and freedom and peace are established. Here is where the biblical mandate is exercised to teach all nations and baptize those that are qualified. The primary focus on the Israelite nation is on the spirit and not the external appearance of the individual. Thus, our Israelite royal family is clearly defined by the same spiritual standards that originally existed in the days of our brother Moses, when he led our forefathers out of the ancient Egypt some 3,500 years ago. Each Israelite is a chosen servant of the God of Israel. Servant. So you have to do what your master says. The master here is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is what we do. We don't make up our own rules. If it's not written here in English, we want nothing to do with it. Why? Because our Father made that translation possible. He heard our cries, and he made it possible. Why would you want to change that to another language? It makes no sense. That's defiant, that's ignorant. Then all I can say, if I may, maybe you should keep the mummy. Each Israelite is a chosen servant of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Each Israelite worships the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in spirit and in truth, according to the terms of our everlasting covenant. Each Israelite is still governed by the same pillar of truth that is now located right here at the border of the New Egypt, right here in Toronto, Canada, where our doors are open to all. It's no longer a mystery. We understand what happened. We know we made mistakes. We fell on our face and asked forgiveness. We were instructed how to do that by our elder. Because anyone can fall on their face anywhere and do whatever, and call them whoever they want. But if you don't do it according to the precepts of this book, the English precepts, therefore, there's no confusion. There could be a problem. We share no affiliation here in Toronto, Canada, or any partnership with any other organization or entity bearing the name Israel or Israelite. We do that whether in part or in whole. And we remain uniquely separate, having the exclusive authority, I can't say this enough, to teach from the authorized English translation of the Holy Bible. Our gates are open to all who seriously seek the truth and the spiritual solution thereof. All who wants to come out of that spiritual sickness that is found in the old Egypt. It doesn't mean you have to fly here or you have to travel here, but what you have to do is move away from the gods of Egypt and seek your own God. That's where we come in. We will help you with that endeavor. Let us go to Isaiah, the book of Isaiah 54. I'll show you, I'll give you some insight into what I'm talking about. Because unless you make the move from the gods of Egypt to the God of Israel, nothing will change. You cannot criticize the Egyptian for whatever he has done, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, and then Sunday morning, you pass him on the way to the altar of the Christian shrine. Makes no sense. What is happening there is not physical. Yes, it's manifested in this physical manner. It's highly spiritual. I've shown you, I've given you the details. Now you know. Check it out for yourself. Don't take me at my word. Check it out and see. But then you still have to make the decision to obey or forbear. It's your choice. Let's go to verse 7, Isaiah 54. It says, you can read the entire thing at your time, at your leisure. It says, for a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith the Lord, thy Redeemer. For this is as the waters of Noah unto me. For as I have sworn that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth, so have I sworn that I will not be wroth with thee, nor rebuke thee. For the mountains shall depart, and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from thee, neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, saith the Lord, that hath mercy on thee. I can't put it any simpler. I can't say it any plainer. It is what it is. The decision now is yours to make. You cannot be criticizing those that are doing their job, even if it is at our pain and suffering, and still be holding hands with them and calling on Jesus, whoever that Jesus is. Because I know it's not my brother, the Israelite Jesus. Not with the Masonic emblem on the cornerstone of your shrine. Change that. Get out of there before it's too late. And reap the benefits that our Father has in store for us. Thanks to our elder, here's what you can expect from us here at the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. We have restored the covenant of circumcision. And before that, we reestablished the name of our Father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, as it was given to Moses. Thanks to the teaching of our elder, we have rebuilt the one holy altar. Notice I said one. That's where our Father has placed his name. If you go back to the days of old, when we were in the wilderness, where the Spirit was there, we set up an altar. God gave Moses the pattern thereof, and he built it according to what he was instructed to do. Whenever the Spirit moved, we'd move that altar. And when the Spirit stopped, we place it there. We didn't say, okay, they can have that. I'm going forward. I'm going to build my own. No. We moved together as one. And we took the same altar and set it up. And not every and anyone could do it. The Levites, special Levites, had the opportunity or the privilege to do that. So I don't understand the concept of having an altar on every street corner. It doesn't work. That, all it does, it takes that spiritual knowledge that is so little and diminishes it. Let us do what is right. One altar, one family, one God. We also reopened the gates of baptism. We rebuilt the royal priesthood. Very important. Now we don't have to look at the other guys who call themselves priests or rabbi or moreh or elders or whatever they call it. I don't know what they do. And I am not against that, not criticizing them. All I'm telling you, we have our royal priesthood that is fitting with the royal law, because we are servants of the King. We've also restored the spring New Year. Elder said almost 40 years ago, 1619 to 2019, people got Oh, 2019's passed and nothing. But what they didn't understand is that our year begins in the spring. So 1619, yes, 2019 ended in the spring of 2020. And you know what happened thereafter. And that's not nice. But it is what it is. You cannot understand how this family is governed from without. You have to be a part of it in order to appreciate what we do. We also restored the new moon and the Sabbath days. They go together. As my elder has said, look up on his video in 1992, I think it was. And he explained that. And still, people don't understand it. What is it, 28 years later? Still don't have a clue. Why? Why are you not listening? Where are your ears? They're supposed to be between your brain and your spirit, one on each side. Are they elsewhere? If you can see, look in the mirror and see. And that is when you give the God of Israel credit for his wonderful creation. Why would he put the listening components next to the brain and the spirit? The sound that enters into the channel activates the spirit, and the spirit triggers the brain, and the brain triggers the muscles, and you have movement. You guys are good dancers. You know what I'm talking about. All of this is recorded by the soul. But that's another lesson. We also, thanks to our elders' teaching, restored the other holy days beside the Sabbath and the new moon. And thanks to our elders' teaching, we hoisted our distinguished banner right here, our national anthem, our coat of arms, and we paid special attention to the oath that we made to our God, the pledge. All of these are the things, the elements, the privileges of being an Israelite, a servant of the Most High King. This then is a spiritual prescription for all the children of Jacob to come to the Israelite nation and subscribe to our teaching. Subscribe to the wisdom, which is not our wisdom. We're just sharing this with you. This was given to our elder who gave it to us. And now we're sharing it with you as the royal priesthood. This is what the priest does. All we could say, listen, search in the scriptures, the English scriptures. Understand what we are saying. Ask questions. Don't make statements. We do not subscribe to statements because we are the only one authorized to teach. So you send in scriptures and all that? No. Ask a question, you'll get an answer. This is the royal court. Only the judge has the authority to teach and to lay down the law. If you're not part of the family, cease and desist. This is the prescription, a spiritual solution for a spiritual problem. All we ask is to follow the prescription and apply a daily dosage so that you could be healed and come out of the danger that you find yourself in that Egypt. I will give the prescription to my senior doctor, Prisando. He will sign off on it if everything is in order, and then you can avail yourself thereof and get healed, feel better, be proud of who you are, be proud of your Israelite heritage and your Israelite culture. Don't accept this foolishness anymore. The days of that nonsense are over. We cannot, and I'm repeating myself, we cannot play by the same standards and as our opponents and win. We have to go higher. As I said, you know the basketball better than I am and the football. All I could do at this point is wish you peace and good health. And as I said before, not by might, nor by power, but by my Holy Spirit, saith the Lord God of hosts. Thank you for your time. I will now turn you over to my senior doctor, Priest Handel.
Nice song. Thank you very much, Elder Michael. We can fade it out a little bit. Awesome. Peace, everyone. You know, I thought about this as I was listening to Elder Michael. And since 1619, when the ships came into America, the New Egypt, even till this very day, our Christian oppressors have made laws that have been contrary and against the black man. You know, since that time, we have been under their thumb. They have made all kinds of laws to regulate the enslavement of my people, whether we were in chains or whether we were supposedly free as right now. They made laws that stated that a black man should be killed for resisting authority. Under the Christian Constitution, we, my people, were known as 3/5 of a man, of a person. Has that changed? If you look at Ahmaud jogging while being black, if you look at George Floyd and you see how they treated him, that is 3/5 of a person. In fact, that is less than a dog. I've said to my brethren that if it so happened that a police officer was kneeling on the neck of a dog, and this was captured in all the smartphones around the city, there would be an uprising from here to Egypt, to Greece, to everywhere in the world, because he killed a dog. My people are hurt right now. Understandably so. My people have been abused for over 400 years. When you see the pain of my people and the things that was done to my people, it's hard not to shed a tear. They made laws even in the acts of enslavement. And I'm going to read this. This is written in the Acts of Enslavement, written by our Christian oppressors. I'm going to read it and read it slowly. It says, whereas some doubts have risen whether children that are slaves by birth and by the charity and piety of their owners, made partakers of the blessed sacrament of baptism, should by virtue of their baptism be made free. The conferring of baptism does not alter the condition of the person as to his bondage or freedom. The Christian oppressor gave us, force-fed their God down our throat. We took up the Christian oppressor's ways, even his God. But he has written and told you that whether you get baptized in their so-called religion, whether you follow his God or his ways, you will always be a slave. Many of our babies go into the Christian institutions and we get christened. We have been bonded in chains, and we've been bonded spiritually, that we will always be in subjection. They made laws to those that converted to Christianity, whether by force or whether they saw Massa and the superiors doing it, that they said they will always remain slaves. They made it a crime. These are laws written by our Christian oppressors, by the way. They made it a law that made it a crime for slaves to grow or possess their own food, gather in groups, or learn to read. I want you to follow me as I take my time through this. These are laws that are made contrary and against the black man. Remember those words, contrary and against the black man. Every time it looked like my people was coming into the awareness of self, every time it appeared that my people was gathering some measure of unity, measure of wealth, measure of substance, they went into the rooms, in the upper chambers, and they made laws that impacted you and I. It broke us up. It took away our wealth, and it took away our God even further and further. This is nothing new, like I said. From the time the ships came in 1619 to this very day, laws are being made that's contrary and against the black man. You have heard of the vagrancy laws. If you haven't, let me explain what the vagrancy laws is all about. The vagrancy laws state that if a black man doesn't have employment or a permanent address, then our Christian white oppressors can jail them, fine them. And you and I both know that we were in poverty and still are till this very day. How is a black man who had nothing, coming from chains and shackles back in those days, having a permanent address or gainful employment? It was very rare for us to do that, and they knew it. So when they emancipated slavery, they started to fear again that here comes the threat of the black man unifying. Here comes the threat of the black man coming into his identity. Here comes the threat of the black man acquiring some wealth and some political state power. We need to put laws in effect to keep them as slaves. So let's go out there, the white oppressor, or the Christian oppressor rather. He went out and he said, find them. If they don't have a permanent place to stay, or if they don't have gainful employment, then the law that we make give us the right to put them in jail, fine them. And when they did that to so many of my people, we had no money to pay the fine. So the law also stated that they could bound us to a term of labor until the amount of that fine was forgiven. So as we thought we came out of slavery, then again the Christian oppressor found laws that was against my people and kept them under their thumb. You've heard of the apprentice laws, I take it. But if you haven't, let me tell you this. They made a law that the orphans of my people, or the young ones of my people, could be hired out. That's the key word, hired out. They can send you to a plantation. They can send you to a slave mansion. They can send you to one of our Christian oppressors' home, and you serve them until they see fit. We have been never freed because although they removed the chains from our hands, we are still under the Christian oppressors' ways and his God. I'm going to ask you a question. And I'm going to take my time, like I said, with this. If you've been kidnapped, you know what, let me take 2 steps back. And let me position it this way. Here's a story of a man, a black man being kidnapped, beaten, bones are broken, and taken to an unknown location, chained in the basement of his kidnappers. And every single day they abused him, raped him. They fed him with the lowest of meats, pigs, because they knew it would take away even his blessings. And as the black man stayed in that basement trapped by his kidnappers, and every day for years, they abused him. They changed his name. They told him they can't call upon his God. And they broke him and broke him and broke him in that dark basement. One day, that black man who was kidnapped, he somehow figured that he would use maybe his fingers to claw through a hole in the basement. And one day he would make that hole so big that he would escape. And that one day happened. And he came out of that hole that he was digging for years in that basement. In the midnight time of the night, under the darkness, he came out. But it was unknown location. It was a forest. He didn't know where he was. So he stumbled through the forest, hopping, eyes black, ribs bruised. No way he can move faster. And he walked for hours until he found a road. And he was like, please, I hope that a car will pass on this road so I could be rescued. Hours later, a light came and he saw a light in the distance. And he was almost looking up towards the heavens, hoping that this was his moment of being saved. And he hopped towards the car, and the car came slowly towards him. And when the window went down in the car, he saw the face of his kidnapper. Our people, the kidnappers, will never be our savior. The kidnapper will never be our savior. The kidnapper's God blesses the kidnapper. We continually think we're free, but we run right back to the kidnapper for saving. The kidnapper will never be your savior, nor his God. But over and over, we see this cycle continue. The cycle of my people supposedly being free, and they run into the Christian shrines. That is the kidnapper. They run into the Christian shrines and say, save us, we escaped. And the kidnapper smiles, says, welcome back. Although you hear this, we do it over and over. It's cyclical, over and over again. We do it and we do it. The kidnapper will never, ever be our savior. In fact, he's happy when we run and we think we're being free and we come right back into his arms. At some point, they said they're going to make the Jim Crow laws of separation, but they call it separation but equal. So again, they put snares for my people. They made sure that if I had to use the washroom so badly, that if I saw a washroom and I went in because I needed to use it so badly, that they could arrest me, beat me, and lynch me because they put whites only on top. And if I had to find a washroom, I got to go miles and miles and miles away. They made sure that I couldn't eat because when I got really hungry and I thought to go in for maybe some fish and chips, and I did because I'm ignorant. I'm not thinking of being lynched or hung, I'm thinking of buying fish and chips. But it was a white-only restaurant. And they wrote it so they had power to take me and drag me behind the car and then do a lynching party with me according to their law. The Christian oppressors made laws that was contrary, still is still this day, and against the black man. Separate but equal, never. Then we talk about what's called Red Summer. Some of you know about this, some of you may not. Again, as we advance as a people, they say, and I'll say this to you, they say the number one thing that people fear the most in this world is not death, but it's public speaking. That's what they say. I'm going to tell you what the Christian oppressors fear the most. They fear that the black man in America comes to his understanding of who he is, which is a child of Israel, and return to his God. The Christian oppressors the world over, that is what they fear the most. They don't fear World War III. That's probably 6th on the list. Number 1 on the list is the rise of my people returning back to their God and establishing their power. So therefore they made the Jim Crow's laws. The separation had to happen because they'll trap us and keep us down. Christian oppressors are very, very smart. They serve in an entity that you call God. A lot of my people call God. Let me unveil that like my brother Elder Michael did. Let me unveil that and unpack it for you. They parade about with Bibles. They say God and Jesus in their vocabulary. Make no mistake that these are all talismans, necromancers. Make no mistake that these are people who do witchcraft. But their God loves them. You follow the things that they do. The kidnapper and the kidnapper's God will never see you as an equal. They are so happy that every time you get loose from the prison cells, you run right back into the getaway car of your kidnapper. They are so happy. There is a scripture that says something to this degree, that if a brother of mine comes saying that he is cold, I should not say to him, be he warm and go your way. Or if he's hungry, I should say, be you filled, my brother, and go your way, with not at all giving him either a sweater or a plate of food to eat. We are not the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries going to sing, we shall overcome. We are not going to give you sweet words without a solution, because it's going to be just like our brothers coming, saying they need warmth, and we just say pretty words without giving them a sweater. It's like our brothers are starving, saying, feed me, and we say, be you filled, without giving them bread and water. The Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, we right now, and even in the days when our elder Shadrach stood up here in the late 80s, have been handing out food for our people. Spiritual food and spiritual clothing, the real solution to our people. We are not going to be marching, we shall overcome, because the day will come when they will just do a press conference to Christian oppressors, because they know the cyclical playbook. All we need to do for these Negras is show that there's some sort of punishment, and they're going to say, thank you, O Christian oppressor, and they're going to go back quietly to what they do until the next one is shot, choked out, Then we start it all over again. We start to burn, we start to loot, we start to march, we start to say, we shall overcome. And then they do a press conference, and we feel, okay, that's cool. Thank you so much, Christian oppressor. And it happens over and over again. Let me remind you a little bit about what I said, Red Summer. Red Summer happened in 1919. The summer of 1919. 13 days. I'll take one city, Chicago. Chicago was set ablaze for 13 days. Rioting happened all across America. Red Summer. Why do they call it red? Because the blood of my people ran. Red Summer. You can Google it or Bing it. Red Summer of 1919. I'll give you a story that happened in Red Summer of 1919. I'll take one state, Chicago. Boy's name was Eugene. Eugene went, played with his friends. All black boys playing, having a good time, not troubling anyone. Went for a swim. It was a hot day, went for a swim. Poor Eugene, I told you about the Jim Crow's laws, right? Poor Eugene actually swam into a territory that was white-claimed territory. A lot of white men rushed out, started to stone, and the little black boys started to stone back. And Eugene is in the water. He's still bobbing, and he's still trying to be in the water. And all the white men are throwing, and the black boys are throwing back, and they're stoning each other. And Eugene, in all the chaos, drowned. The police officers showed up. 1919, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing is new. Nothing is new. Police officers showed up, refused to arrest any of the white males, arrested a black man, and then our people were hurt. We were furious, so we started to loot, burn the cities down. We started to fight back. All across the U.S., every state was lit. It was a racial frenzy of war. The summer of 1919, known as Red Summer. But guess what? Who came out victorious? It was a massacre. Major acts of terrorism was done to my people. They were massacred. Christian oppressors got into their jeeps. They loaded the trains. They loaded everywhere. They said if it's black and moving, it is target practice. They shot our babies. They shot our women. They shot our men. It was target practice. They lynched our men. It was a bloodbath. How you expect to have power? How you expect to have real freedom when you are bowing down to the oppressor's God? You think the oppressor's God likes you more than them? Let me answer that question. Far from him. We have been in the longest summer of our life. This is still Red Summer to me. 400 years, my people of affliction, and we are still rioting, turning over cars and burning and looting and saying, we shall overcome. And I know the pain that you feel, because I feel that pain. I know the pain that you feel. It is not right what is happening to our people. It's never been right. Never been right. But how do we change that? Elder Michael gave you the framework, the spiritual framework. Elder Shadrach talked about a spiritual solution. Even when I was just a little rise boy, at 21 I heard him speaking about a spiritual solution is the only way for our people. And I'm not saying to you, all we got to do is pray. I know it is a terrible time that we are in right now. We've been in terrible times prior. But what needs to change is not singing "We shall overcome," but actually returning back to the one who can save us, who is not in that car coming up the driveway, that when the window rolls down, it's the same face of your kidnapper, or the same face of your kidnapper's God. We got to look elsewhere now. We got to look to our God. And he's not coming in the car. He comes from there. Right up there. Bright as the sun. Arrayed with all the beauty. When the voice of him speaketh, like you heard last night, even the volcanoes erupt. You want power? You want strength? You don't want to be affiliated with that? You don't want to be associated with a God when he speaks, even the mountains crack in half, and the volcano gets so terrified that it starts to vomit and spew. What ail thee, O mountains, and O little hills that you skip like rams, even at the presence of the Lord, even my God and your God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You don't want to be associated with that. You rather go to your kidnapper's God and sing "We shall overcome" and "Amazing Grace"? You rather do that. You know, this is one of those messages that is very difficult because, like I said, my people are out there like sheep without a shepherd. They're scattered, they're beaten down. I feel that for them. I would love to see that my people be respected. I would love to see my people in unity. I would love to see that the Christian oppressors just do what they gotta do and leave my people alone. But laws have been made that are contrary and against the black man. I told you to remember that line. Laws have been made that are contrary or against the black man. You know, this is nothing new. I'm going to call some names. Some names of my people they posed no threat to the public. They posed no threat to police officers. They were unarmed, but they were shot like wild pigs, or choked out like, I don't even know what I can say, choked out like a beast. They were definitely in a place where they were completely persecuted without it being justified. And we stood there helpless because we have no power among our oppressors because we have given up our God. Dontre Hamilton, shot 14 times, police officer. Eric Garner, he cried out 11 times, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." They choked him out 15 seconds on the sidewalk. He died. And our people lit up like they are right now, singing "We shall overcome" and lining up again in the kidnappers' churches and places of worship, trying to get some help. Michael Brown, shot and killed. John Crawford, Ezel Ford, Dante Parker, Tanisha Anderson, killed because the police officer slammed her head on the pavement, dead. My people were hurt once again. Once again, and we lit up and we looted and we did what we had to do because the hurt is in us. Enough is enough. But it continues and continues. It's cyclical. Tamir Rice, Romaine Brisbane, Akai Gurley. He was with his girlfriend in the hallway or stairway, it was little dimmed, of an apartment building. Maybe listening to some love songs with his girlfriend beside him. Police officer was called. They came in and they shot him. Bang! He got off because he said it was accidental discharge. And our people again, furious, understandably, hurt, understandably, but no power in their hands. Zero. Celebrities step up. Our own people in politics step up. Every community activist had stepped up, and nothing was resolved. They say smooth words, and we go right back. Another thing that we need to do, as I talk about the Christian oppressor, we have taken on a behavior, a learned behavior, that is detrimental to us. Our little boys saw our Christian oppressors hanging us and whipping us. They saw that there was no respect in the eyes of the Christian oppressors to our men or women. So our little boys grew up. I told my daughter this, I remember singing a song while I was in Trinidad when we were playing hide and seek. And I didn't know the song was any different than this. It said, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a nigger by his toe." I did not know that the lyrics were "catch a tiger by his toe," because we grew up as little boys playing hide and seek, and that was the song we sang. It's a learned behavior. We saw the Christian oppressors beat and disrespected our black males. We saw the Christian oppressors raping our women. So now we grow up 400 years later, we put our women down and we shoot our own men. We're just doing the job that they wanted us to do. No different than the police officer stepping on the neck of one of our own. We need to stand up in our communities when our own does this to our own. It's a learned behavior because we have no respect for our own, because we saw the Christian oppressor disrespecting our males and our females. So now we have taken that on. We oppress our own women. We treat them like slaves. We kill our own men. We treat them like slaves. The same outrage that we have when it's done by the Christian oppressor should be the same outrage. We should hold our own people accountable. Only then will we start seeing things move. We have killed more of our own than any police officers killed about our people. Learn this. We have. It's wrong on all fronts, whether it is the Christian oppressor doing it or it's us doing it to our own. It is wrong, and enough is enough. Now, I've called out names. I talked about Breonna Taylor. Cops came to her residence at about 1 a.m. Kicked the door down. I think it was a no-knock clause. They kicked the door down, fired off immediately. Bang, 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 bang. 21 shots. Hit her with 8. Why? It's like they're hunting wild pigs. It's hunting season. My people, I understand the hurt and the frustration because I feel that. But until we return to who can save us, we would be doing this over and over again. It will never stop, and more of us will die. Elder Michael told you about matching power for power. So what you're going to do, you're going to bring your guns to a riot. They got bigger guns. So what you're going to do, you're going to You're going to put your gun on top of your pickup truck and pretend it's some automatic weapon? They got tanks. So what are you going to do? You're going to try to go on a roof and be a sniper? They got jets. We will be outpowered over and over again. Red summer. This is the longest summer that we've ever had, and it's still blood red. So then what, my people, could be the solution to this problem that has been plaguing the black man for 400 years? Not just 2020. Not just George Floyd. In the 60s, they marched. They threw their fist up. They had signs saying, "I'm a man. I'm a human being." They sang again, "We shall overcome." But here in 2020, back again. Told you I'm not going to tell you if you are cold, be warm, without giving you a jacket. I told you, if you come and you say you're hungry, I'm not going to say, "Be you filled," and not give you some bread, some water, some food. All those guys holding your hands in riots and marches, a lot of them have political agendas. A lot of them want to be seen on camera for photo ops. It's empty. You are left still cold. You are still left hungry. Come and eat of this doctrine and return to your rock from whence you were hewn. I want to talk to you about something very important. And I'm going to go, because I haven't done it yet, talk to you about any scriptures. Because this is a different day. After this video, or after this stream, go watch on our YouTube channel the video called The 400-Year Prophecy. Elder Shadrach went into length. Elder Michael talked about it earlier. 1619 to 2019. He talked about what the prophet Isaiah had prophesied. That our people is going to go through this 400 years of affliction, as written in the book of Genesis 15. The time that you start that 400-year count was when we came in the slave ships in 1619 to 2019. And everyone, like Elder Michael said, laughed at Elder Shadrach. They laughed at this Israelite nation, saying, "What kind of message is this about a 400-year prophecy?" Lo and behold, without missing a second, COVID-19. Hi. Now, look what's happening. And the words out of people who are Christian oppressors and those who are kings of this earth have said, they have not seen anything like this before. Wake up, my people. Wake up. I'm going to go to Colossians chapter 2. And I'm going to read from verse 8 to 15. And I want to express again how I feel personally. I feel hurt when I see my people beaten down, when I see my people killed, when I hear stories about my people that were just walking the dog, but they end up doing life in prison. Innocent people of my kind have loaded up the jails and penitentiaries without ever committing, not even spitting on the sidewalk they did. But they got the needle and they got the chair. How many of my people are on death row and never committed a crime? It saddens me when I see my people rioting. I understand the pain, but it saddens me because they're like sheep scattered abroad without a shepherd. It saddens me. So we try our very best to give to you a solution that hopefully if you hear it, you will stop, think, and return. But let me read Colossians 2, because I told you what they did. The Christian oppressors created laws that was contrary and against the black man. Colossians number 2, chapter 2 from verse 8. And I'm going to read this slowly. Verse 8 says, "Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ." The true Christ, by the way. The true Christ. Not Jesus, whom the Christian oppressor has given to our people. Not the Roman Jesus, whom the Christian oppressor has given to our people to substitute for the real one in our scriptures that look like you and I. Verse 10. "For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and you are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power, in whom also you are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, and putting off the body of sins in the flesh by the circumcision of Christ." There is no other way to be saved, ladies and gentlemen, in that we have to remove all the things of this world and of the Christian oppressor that he put upon us, removing that and circumcising our spirit to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Only way we're going to start to feel some sense of power, some sense of respect, some sense of advancement. We will be able to stand up against whoever comes at us. Only then. 12 says, buried with him in baptism, whereof you are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who had raised him from the dead. And you, being dead in your sins, and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together, with him having forgiven you all trespasses. Listen keenly to this verse. I'm going to say it one more time. Listen keenly to this verse. Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it back to his cross. Everything, like I said, that was contrary to the black man and against the black man, all those laws, the Christ had taken it away and dropped it on a cross. Leave that cross alone. But my people, wherever that cross is, with all the laws that were contrary to them that's hanging, and all the ordinances hanging on that cross, they will kick down a door, they will rob to get that cross around their neck. And lo and behold, the manifestation happened. That all the Jim Crow laws, all the laws of the Christian oppressors that was against us was manifest because we took it back upon us. Leave the cross alone. Everything that was against the black man was nailed on that cross. Run away from it. But we picked it up, we fought for it, we snatched it, we even made it as big as we can to put around our necks. And lo and behold, the manifestation happened that all the laws that was contrary to us and all the laws that was against us came back to being. What more can I say to you than I have shared with you? These are written. I'm going to move over to the book that Elder Michael touched, which is Deuteronomy 32. And I actually really enjoy the scripture. My people are hurt and unrest is happening. And at this time, we know, the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, we know that this is not normal times. We know that something is brewing. You need to come back home. You need to come back home if we are to solve this. Let me explain what coming back home is in 1 second. I'll explain that to you, what coming back home is. This is the book of Deuteronomy, written by Moses, our forefather Moses. Listen to these words. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, and my speech as shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, and ascribe ye greatness unto our God. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment. A God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. They, meaning the black man, his people, the children of Israel, the children of slavery. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children, because they have taken on the Christian oppressor's ways, his culture, and his God. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that had bought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Remember, please, remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and they will tell thee. And when we talk about thy father, we're talking about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, who was surnamed Israel. We talk about Moses, Joshua. We talk about Gideon. We talk about David. We talk about Solomon. Ask them, seek them. They can be found. And they will tell you. Look to Elder Shadrach. He will tell you the former days of our God and our people. Come to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. We will tell you of the former days and about our God. But your father today, who you go to and say, bless me, Father, for I have sinned, he will not be able to tell you this, just so you know. Verse 8. When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set bounds of the people, according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. Christian oppressor, I'm going to tell you right now, that although you feel as if our God is hiding his face and he is gone away, and you feel so comfortable in taking your knee and putting it on the neck of one of my people, let me remind you that all of us belongs, all of my people belongs to a God, whether they are good or whether they are bad. They belong to a God, and not just a God, the God of all gods. And ask yourself, Christian oppressor, if someone would take your children, beat them, lynch them, burn them with fire, how would you feel? Our God is a consuming fire. The day will come when he will judge you for how you have treated my people. Correction. The day will come for how you have treated me and my people, for I am included in this. I fear that if I was also there, that I could have been choked out, shot. I fear if I was also there, I could have also been in a cop car because I was walking my dog and served life in a prison for not even committing a crime. And then they put a cap on my head, and God forbid, here I am, and I'm electrocuted. All because I am a black man. It's more than that. Because I am a child of Jacob is why the world hates me. Because they fear more than ever that if I should come to my senses and return to my God and his culture and lift my hands towards the heaven and say, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, please deliver me, they know the time of their power would end and my time will begin. I will read verse 10. He found them in a desert land, and in the waste howling wilderness, he led them about. Our God led us about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. You cannot hurt someone's apple of their eye and think that you are not going to be held accountable at some time. Think about this. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth about her young, spreadeth about her wings, taketh them and beareth them on her wings. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was at that time no strange God with him. He made him, which is our people, ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increases of the field. And he made him to suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock. Prosperity our God gave us when there was no strange God with us. Butter of kine and milk of sheep and fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan and goats with the fat of kidneys and wheat. Thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. It was the best of the best we had, because there was no strange God, no Christian God with us, no Christian God with us, only the God of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But Jeshurun, us, waxed fat and kicked. Thou art fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook God, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him, they, my people, provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations they provoked him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils, not to God. Understand, when you follow the Christian oppressor and his ways and his God, you are sacrificing to devils. When you go to those places that you call church, it is a shrine, a place of the dead, and they serve a demonic entity. You need to understand that. They sacrifice not to God, but to devils. To gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten God that formed thee. And when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them. When he saw that we went after the strange gods and we sacrificed and we followed their culture and their ways, he completely put his hands up and pushed us away. Because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very froward generation, children in whom there is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities. And I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. It is happening right now. Why? Because you have provoked our God to anger by going after the Christian oppressor's gods and his ways, and you have left off your rock, capital R, that begat thee. You want real power, real freedom. You want real strength. You want real salvation. We can't get it by going to the kidnapper, nor his God. It is impossible. Verse 22 says, for a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap mischiefs upon them. I will spend mine arrows upon them. They shall be burnt with hunger and devoured with burning heat and with bitter destruction. I will also send teeth of beasts upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man, my people, and the virgin of my people, and the suckling of the man of gray hairs, my people, because we have completely disrespected our God. I said, it says in verse 26, I said, I would scatter them into the corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord had not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How, it says, how should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight? How could you do it? How could one of you chase 1,000 and just two of you make 10,000 people run? Here's what the scripture says. Except their rock had sold them, and the Lord had shut them up. For their rock, your Christian oppressors, is not as our rock. Even our enemies themselves being judges. Doesn't matter if they're judges or kings. Doesn't matter who they are. Their rock is not like our rock. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom, and their fields Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of Gal. What they feed you with. What they feed you with is like the poison of venom. It is not good for my people. It destroys us when we go to them. I would read that verse one more time. Their vine, the Christian oppressors, their vine is the poison of dragons. Sorry, verse 32. Their vine is the vine of Sodom. And you know what that means? I don't need to illustrate that. And their fields of Gomorrah, their grapes are grapes of Gal, and their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons. When I was small, I was brought into Christianity. On my birth certificate, it says that I'm Roman Catholic. I had no choice. No choice in the matter. And they would drag, the Christian oppressors would have brainwashed my people, so my people went to the kidnapper's place. And they had wine all throughout, and they would give us wine in sacrament. Scripture says that their wine is the poison of dragons, and the cruel venom of asps? Is this not laid up in store with me and sealed among my treasures? To me, the God of Israel, belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall not slide, or their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand. And the things that shall come upon them, make haste. For the Lord shall judge his people, and repent himself for his servants, when he see that their power is gone, and there's none shut up or left. He will, my God will come in the clouds, and the idols of Egypt will move at his presence. He will judge the nation that has afflicted me and my people for 400 years. Do not be dismayed, my people, because you see all the things in this year that is happening. My God has said so through the prophets, that my people will serve in a strange land for 400 years. But after that, he's going to judge the nation. And those of you who hold on to the skirt of a true Israelite shall receive great substance. For the chief shepherd shall return, and with him he brings a reward to those of us who labor in this truth. Come home to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. I have a question to ask you before I leave this podium. Are you tired of the Christian oppressors treating you badly? Yeah? You tired of the Christian oppressor killing our people like wild pigs and treating us worse than dogs? Yeah? You want to feel real power? You want to feel real unity, respect? You want to see our people advance? You want to see one of us stand before 1,000 and fight them off spiritually? You want to see 2 of us stand before 10,000 and make them run? Return back to the greatest God there is, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Call the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. We are happy that if you need to be warm, we have the jacket. If you need to be fed, we have the food. And this is our way of standing up for our people in this time. It's by giving them something that can actually save them. So with that, I leave you with peace.